Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Provost. I'm excited. We are doing the JobNimbus 101 workshop. I'm excited to have you here today. We got some exciting topics to be talking about, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Once again, you guys can watch this and you can email us or contact us if you have any other questions after watching this video. So let's go ahead and move right in. We have two amazing speakers today. We've got Daniel and Logan. They'll be talking about the benefits of JobNimbus. And so let me turn it over to you, Logan.
Right. So today we're going to be going through 5 of the most commonly asked questions that show up in JobNimbus. We get a lot of questions in our support department that cover a lot of topics. These are some of the most common and some we can hope you can benefit from. We're going to be talking about ways that you can use our different technology to be a lot more organized, to make JobNimbus fit your company so that you are keeping the best use that you can and not letting anything slip through the cracks. We're going to explain the difference between contacts, jobs, work orders, and help you figure out what's going on if you think you're missing a few of your records. Today, we're going to be going into JobNimbus so we can show as well as tell. And if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in our chat or Q&A sections, or raise your hands and talk. We're so lonely. So without any further ado, let's jump into JobNimbus and start with the first of 5 questions.
Yeah, so today we're going to have 5 questions, count them 5. And usually with these lists, they count down from 5 to 1. We're not going to do that. We're going to start with the biggest question that we receive. We're going to start with number 1. So without further ado, question number 1.
Hey, Dan, what's the difference between a board and a workflow?
That right there is an excellent question. That is a question that will get you started using JobNimbus right the first time. The difference between boards and workflows is that workflows are the backbone of JobNimbus and boards are the visual representation of the workflow. As you can see, boards and workflows work in tandem. They work together, but they are different. It's kind of like if you go to a concert, the workflow is the manager behind the screen, behind the stage. They're making sure that everything is in order, everything is working properly. And boards are what you see in front of the curtains. So the workflows can be found in your settings. So to get to your settings, you'll want to click on your name in the top right corner and then select settings from the drop-down menu. This will take you to everything in JobNimbus that you can just play around with and customize to make JobNimbus work better for your company. When you first start in your workflows, when you first start in JobNimbus, you'll only have one set of workflows, and that's your contact workflows. We'll get into job workflows and work order workflows a bit later and the difference between all of that in a little bit, but we want to focus right now on contact workflows. So let's pull up the contact workflows. This right here is where you'll see all of your different workflows. Now, your workflows are like the job process that you have at your company. As you see, you can have many different types of job processes. We have in this company, we have residential retail, residential insurance, commercial, and service and repairs. Now, all of these job processes are a bit different because you don't want to go at your residential insurance the same way that you do your commercial. They're different jobs, and you do the jobs a bit differently. So you'll want to have different workflows for all of the different job processes in your company. Now let's take a look at the residential retail right here. As you see, the residential retail job process starts with lead and ends with paid and closed, and it has every single step of the job process along the way. That's what you want to use your workflow for, every single step of the job process. That way you can keep track of where your contacts are in your job. Let's open up this workflow right here. To edit a workflow, you'll want to click on the 3 dots and select edit. If you want to create a new workflow, you click on this blue button right here for add workflow. So this is what a workflow looks like inside JobNimbus. We have the name of the workflow, and down here we have what's called statuses. These statuses are the steps in your job process. As I said before, we want to start with the lead, and we go through every single step of the job process all the way down to paid and closed. In every single workflow, you'll also want to include a lost status, because any time in the job process you lose a customer, you want somewhere to put them, and that will be your lost status. As you notice, we also have stages that are associated with our statuses. And these stages will help break up your job process. So we have lead, estimating, sold, in production, and so on. These will really help with your reporting and will help keep track of where your statuses are in your workflow. So now that we've gone through the workflow, let's actually pull up a board and see how your boards and your workflows work together. So to go to your boards, we'll want to actually go back to our dashboard, and let's pull up the contacts here. Now, this is what your boards looks like. Your boards are a lot like if you use a whiteboard in your office and you have different areas of different steps in your job process that you put your contacts on so you can easily see them. That is what your JobNimbus board is for. As we see, we have our boards separated by our different job processes or our workflows. We have retail, insurance, and commercial. Now, these help separate our contacts so we know exactly where they are, which workflow they're in, and what status they're in. Now, where the workflow uses statuses, boards use lists, as we see right here. The list contains a name, and it's associated with a status. If we go in here and edit, we can take a look at this. Your list name does not have to be the same as your status name. It can be whatever you want, but it's easy to have it. It's just easiest to have it the same name as your status name so you know what is happening. Now, once you name your list, you can associate it with a status. And what this does is all the contacts in the lead status will show up under the lead list. Now, if we see this here, if you're looking at this, and you might notice that this does not show every single status in your workflow, and that's good. You do not want a board that contains a list that has every single status in your workflow. That'll just be a huge board. It'll be a headache to work with. So what we recommend is that you break up your workflow into parts. So as we see here, this is the sales portion of your job process. Everything that has to do with sales, with getting your contacts from lead to sign contract is here in this board. You'll have other boards here, such as follow-up, office approval, and production that go through different other portions of your workflow. If we open up office approval, you'll see that this starts with signed contract where the other board ended, and we'll go to job approved. This helps move your contacts fluidly through your job process so you can see where they are. Now let's actually open up a board. When we open up a board, we see that our lists here visually, and we can see our contacts in each list. We can see how many contacts are in there and which contacts are there. We can see that Sarah Jane Smith is a lead, whereas Stephanie Brown is in the right estimate status. This using your boards really helps you see where your contacts are in the workflow. It gives you a great visual representation of where you are in your job process, what has been done, what needs to be done, and it keeps you on track. And it helps bring everyone together so that everyone has great communication and can work together as a team.
That's a fantastic way to show the difference between workflows and boards. One's the background, the other is what you can actually see when you're messing through it. That's a good answer to our first question. But we have a question number 2 now.
Logan, when should I use jobs instead of contacts?
That's a great question, Dan. A lot of people get confused because, hey, isn't what we're doing jobs? I mean, I'm not doing a contact. I'm doing a job for a person. And that can be confusing. If you're doing a lot of one-off work, like retail work, or residential work or insurance work, if you're going up to somebody, changing their roof and never seeing them again, this is something that we would do under contacts. But for some of our clients, some of our users, you end up working for a retail company. You work for a commercial company or a property management company, and they'll say, hey, go work on this house, go work on this house, go work on this house, go do this. And if that's the case, you want to use jobs. Think of jobs as Russian nesting dolls under your contacts. They keep more information in more places. Let's go into it in a little bit more detail. So first you'd have to do is turn on jobs. Go into your settings by clicking on your name in the right-hand corner and go into features. Here you can turn on jobs. Like it says here, we use jobs to track multiple projects for the same customer with separate addresses. Another quick and dirty way to tell if you should use jobs is if you're using QuickBooks and you use sub-customers, you want to use jobs. You'll notice that above the contact workflows, we have job workflows. These look very, very similar to what we use with contact workflows, and they'll go from the beginning to the end of your job process. If we are using job workflows, then instead of using a long, complex workflow for our contact, like residential retail, we'll use something like customers here and just label them as active or inactive. When you're using jobs, everything should be done under the job itself. Let's take a look at what a job looks like. If we go to our good friend Jane Tester, we'll see that she has a jobs tab right next to her activity tab. Here, we can see a list of all the jobs that are created under Jane. Currently, there's just one. It's in a residential workflow. We can add another one. And you'll notice that it asks for her name, the name of the job, a location that we can put it under. Most importantly, it asks for a new address because this is the new location we'll be doing work for Jane. It doesn't, however, ask for phone numbers or email addresses. It will just use what's assigned to the primary contact, Jane Tester. So if you're doing a lot of commercial work, instead of entering contacts over and over and over again, you'll enter your property management company or similar just one time and then build out your Russian nesting dolls, which are each held individually and can be changed about from contact to contact without doing any damage to the job itself. Jobs, that's a confusing name, but it does a really good job at what it's for. Now, jobs aren't the only way that we have to track your work other than contacts.
Yeah, that is correct. And that brings us to question number 3.
Hey, Dan, I see this on the end. What's a work order? What's up with work orders?
Yeah, that is a great question. Work orders is another feature that can be enabled in your settings. It's an extra feature that works alongside contacts and jobs. So let's say your company doesn't just do one trade. They don't just do roofing. You do multiple trades and you want to separate your jobs by the trades that you do. You can do this by using work orders. Let's take a look at your work orders and settings. To enable work orders, you'll want to go to your settings, select features from the left side navigation bar, and then scroll down here to work order. As we see here, it says track specific types of work and trades. Now, when you enable work orders in your settings, you'll see this work order workflows pop up in your left side navigation bar. When you pull that up, you'll see that your work order workflows are not the same as your contacts and your jobs. They are much shorter. That's because Your work order workflows really cover the in production portion of your job process. So they'll cover from when a work order has been created all the way through the in production portion and are marked complete. To create new trades for your company, you'll come here to add workflow. You'll add in the trade, the name of the trade that you do, and then you'll add the workflow. As we see, this company currently does roofing, siding, gutter, and window. You can add multiple trades to really customize your work orders for your company. Now since now that we've seen that, let's see a work order in action. So let's go back to Jane Tester and pull up work orders. As we see, Jane already has a few work orders. Let's add a new work order. Right here, we can, at the very top, we have the option of using an existing estimate. So if you've already created an estimate for Jane, we can use an existing estimate to create the work order for us, but let's enter it manually. Right here is you see the calendar options there. We can choose when this work order will be performed. To see something really cool in a little bit, let's add a time that the work order will be performed and it'll start and end today. To help build out our work order, let's use a saved work order that I've created earlier called tar shingle roofing. This will populate all the items that will be needed to complete this job. We can assign this work order to specific team members in JobNimbus. If you're using subcontractors, we can also assign this work order to a subcontractor. Now that we've created our work order, let's save it. After the work order has been saved, we can come up here and we can even email the work order to our subcontractor, Charlie. Your work orders really help with filling in that communication gap between your company and your subcontractor. It really helps keep your jobs flowing and letting your subcontractors know what needs to be done. Now, another thing that I mentioned earlier is that you can give your work order a specific start time and end time. What that does is it makes the work order appear on your calendar. As we see here, the work order has appeared for today, starting at 1 and end at 3 o'clock. We can click on this and it'll pull up details for the work order. We can also preview the work order. So it's really neat. So work orders are a really neat feature that help keep you and your trades organized and help keep communication organized between you and your subcontractors.
Now, these are some awesome different types of records we can keep in JobNimbus, but sometimes what we need help with is figuring out what's going on with them, which brings us to question 4.
Logan, I know I have some records, specific records in my account, but I cannot see them. Why can I not see these records?
Yeah, this can happen a lot, Dan. You're not the first, you won't be the last. There's a number of different things that can cause you to lose a record. Let's go over some of them. So the first and most obvious one, and if you're an admin, this probably won't apply to you, is you don't have the permission to see that record. I'm sorry, you've been denied. If we go into your settings, you can take a look at your access profiles. You'll notice that in this account, Daniel is the admin, but Dean, Eddie, Gerald, and so on, they only have limited access. If we go in to edit their profile, we'll see what that means. At the top of any access profile, you have the choice to mark them as full access, which means they can see everything, or limited access. They can only see the contacts and jobs that they are a sales rep of or assigned to. So if you're not able to see something, that could be the reason. For instance, if we look at Jane Tester, you'll notice that the sales rep is Daniel, and she's only assigned to Daniel. Since everyone else in the account is a limited access user, no one else would even know that Jane Tester exists. So if we want Dean to be able to see Jane, we need to go in, edit Jane, and here on the right-hand side, you'll see assigned to. Let's add Dean to the list and save it. You'll see that Dean now shows up as assigned to. So Jane is now part of Dean's profile, and Dean will be able to see Jane. Something else that could be changing the way you see things is the way your workflows are set up. You'll notice that these workflows have a column third over called access. All of these are set to just assignees, meaning you have to be assigned to them to be able to see them unless you're full access. If we wanted to change that, we could edit this. And up here at the top, we can choose only team members can see, or we can put on all team members. You'll notice that if we click on that, we get a warning from JobNimbus saying, hey, if you do this, everybody in your account will be able to see them. Are you okay with that? Let's say yes for now. And if we do so, now everyone will be able to see Jane Tester since she's in residential retail. Now, these are some of the basic ways that you might find or lose contacts. A good test for this is to just search them in the top. There can be places you can lose them inside JobNimbus, but searching from them will always find them if you have access to them. You might also lose them if you're looking at a board and that board has been filtered. So for instance, if we make it so we're only seeing things that are assigned to Dean, then we're going to start at the 20 contacts over here. And when I apply this filter and save the board, all of a sudden, all of my contacts disappeared. This is a big problem if you're losing all of your sales leads. But if we searched for them, they'd still appear. Let's go ahead and remove the filter. And you'll see all of them return. Same thing can happen if you're working on a report. They could be filtered so you couldn't see them. We can make the same sort of filter here, like data updated, only show me things from the last week. Oh, now I'm down to just one item in this report. But once again, if I search at the top, all of these things will stay visible. So step one, check your access profiles, check your privilege. Step two, do a search. And that's how you can make sure you're seeing just about any record in JobNimbus. There are some other things that you can lose inside JobNimbus.
Yeah, thanks, Logan. Lose inside JobNimbus. That's not something that happens very often, but you don't actually lose that stuff. It's just hidden. Another question that we get, that brings us to question number 5.
Dan, I've done a lot of work. I've got a lot of contacts. I've gotten work done for these contacts. And I'm looking at my built-in reports on my sales dashboard, and I'm not seeing my money. Where's my money at?
This isn't something that's lost. It's just it's still in JobNimbus, but we need to make sure that certain things have happened in order for that to show up in your reports. Now let's to look at this more fully. Let's actually take a look at our dashboard reports and our built-in reports just to see where things are and what we're looking at. So when we're looking at our revenue and where our money is in our dashboard reports, we're looking at revenue leaderboard, average deal size, and deals leaderboard. Now, the thing with these graphs and reports is that they use estimates. Your built-in reports, such as the sales pipeline or job pipeline, you can choose between using estimates or invoices to show your revenue, but the dashboard reports only use your estimates. So the very first thing that you need to make sure that is happening in JobNimbus is that you're creating estimates for your contacts or your jobs. And if you're using jobs, you're only creating estimates for your jobs, and you're looking at, you've changed your report type from contacts to jobs. And we can So that is what you really need to make sure that is happening in your dashboard and in your contacts or jobs, is that you're creating estimates and that you're looking at the correct type, either contacts or jobs, in your dashboard. Another thing that you need to make sure happens is, remember how we were talking about stages earlier? Let's pull up our workflows real quick so we can take a look at this more fully. We were talking about the stages earlier: lead, estimating, and sold. You need to make sure that your contacts or jobs have moved from the lead stage to a status with a sold stage. This tells JobNimbus that the job has been sold and to show that revenue on your reports. If you have completely bypassed your statuses with the sold stage and gone from estimating to in production, so let's say it goes from pending contract to job approved, your revenue will not show up in your dashboard. It needs to show up. It needs to at least touch signed contract, contract review, or additional info needed right here in your sold stages in order for that revenue to show up in your reports. Now, so that's two things. Remember, you need to create estimates, and your contacts or jobs need to move from lead, and they need to touch a status with the sold stage. The third thing that you need to make sure happens is you need to make sure that the status for your estimate has been updated. Let's take a look at Jane Tester again and take a look at our estimates. Your estimates can be found in the Financials tab in your Contact or Jobs file. As we see, Jane Tester has 3 estimates right here. 2 of them are invoiced. The third is draft. Now, of course, there's no total on the draft because it hasn't been completed. But if there was a total in there, it would not, that estimate will not show up in your reports because it's draft. The status of your estimate needs to be either approved or invoiced. To change status, you click on the 3 dots, hover over change status, and then you change it to either approved or invoiced. That will make sure that your estimates are showing up correctly on your reports. Your sales dashboard reports are there for you, and they're a really awesome way to view your revenue, project how much your company is going to be making from all of the jobs that you're doing. But if you're not following those 3 simple steps, they will not work correctly. So if we go over them again, you need to make sure that you're creating estimates in the correct file, either jobs, if you're using jobs, only create estimates in jobs, or contacts, that your contact or job has moved from a lead stage to a sold stage, and that your estimates status has been changed from draft to either approved or invoiced.
That was a great answer to that question, Dan. And that brings us to the end of our 5 questions, which means we're reaching the end of our webinar today. So we want to make sure that you're using the correct kind of records inside JobNimbus so that you have the sort of organization you need. If you're using a lot of different trades in your business, you might want to start using work orders. If you have a lot of commercial work, you work with property management companies, or you use sub-customers in QuickBooks, you might want to try using jobs. And if there's anything you're missing, don't forget to search for it and use estimates and label them correctly in order to get them to show up so you can project your revenue. If you have any further questions, you can reach out to our support team using the information on the next slide.
You can also view any of our previous webinars at our YouTube channel. It's really awesome. We're building out our webinars, and you can view any of them, and also our other videos that we have up there, and just really get to know us, because JobNimbus is a really awesome company, and we are really excited to work with you.
I say, yeah, thank you so much. We also have our knowledge base. You guys can go check that out. It's support.jobnimbus.com. You can reach out to us by phone by 855-964-6287. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, I really want to learn about JobNimbus, I don't currently work with them, but I'd like to, you can do a trial, a free demo of our software. That's right. And it's super easy to do that. You can go to our little tiny link right over here. It's bit.ly/trial JobNimbus 14. go there and you can do your own trial of JobNimbus.